it for topic number 6. We're going to move on to topic number 7 now. Free OBJ. Over the week, Odell Beckham Jr.'s dad tweeted out some videos of Odell and how wide open he's been, for the Browns and how he's not getting the football. And then LeBron James came out and tweeted how wide open that OBJ has been throughout the season, that he's not getting the football. And he was saying that, Odell Beckham Jr. should get traded. That's an awesome cartoon. Should OBJ, first of all, get traded? Is he not being fed the football in Cleveland? Is it just a bad fit? Do they not know how to use him? What do you think, Brandon, about OBJ's situation in Cleveland?
Well, hey, viewers, I totally get it. We understand that, the trade deadline has come and gone, but, that still opens up once the season ends. And people are still talking about, Deshaun Watson getting traded and a lot of other guys getting traded. So this is still a value of a topic here. And I've got to go with it. Yes, that I think it's time for the Cleveland Browns to trade Odell Beckham Jr. And I think more for Odell Beckham.
3rd and 5.
Honestly. I just don't think it's worked out there. I think it was one of those that they tried to pair him up with one of his best friends, Jarvis Landry. They've been best friends for a long time. You thought that would keep him happy, but it didn't. It didn't really keep him happy, man. This guy's a superstar. He wants the ball. He wants to put up big numbers. We're talking about a guy that hasn't found the end zone in over a year, I believe, at this point, which is amazing to even think with all the talent that he's got. But just him and Baker Mayfield haven't been able to build that connection that they need to. You can obviously point to some of the injuries for both players where Baker's been off the field like he currently has been recently, or how Odell had obviously the big ACL injury and then a couple other injuries that hasn't put him full time. But currently right now, he's saying he is 100% healthy, ready to go. He said he's faster than he's ever been. So I've got to really believe him. I've got to think that this guy is a one-in-a-generation talent. He needs to go somewhere where he can be used, maybe a place like, I don't know, New England Patriots or something like that. Like I've been saying for a long time ago, I know we don't have as much trade bait as we used to, but I was saying that the Patriots should have traded Stephon Gilmore for Odell Beckham Jr. months ago. Go back and look at that on our show. Been saying that for a long time. Obviously, that trade's out the window now with Gilmore playing for the Carolina Panthers. But still, I still think in the offseason, this is a guy that I believe is going to get traded. Just even today, with the trade window closing and that being shut down, there's still reports coming out that now he's unhappy. He still doesn't want to be there. I believe he got dismissed from practice today, or was told he didn't even have to attend practice today. So it just tells you that this relationship is going to get worse before it gets better, per se. So I do think it's time for the Cleveland Browns to move on. You've got guys like LeBron James saying that, this is a one-in-a-generation talent getting wasted in Cleveland. But he loves Cleveland. He loves that team. So for one of their, biggest fans to say that they should trade one of their best players, I think it speaks more to how fans and people across the NFL are looking, being like, man, Odell Beckham is arguably one of the best receivers that we've seen over the last 5 years, maybe decade, with his talent, his hands, his speed, his route running. But we just haven't got to see it over these last few years because A, Cleveland's not putting him in a great position to succeed. And B, Baker Mayfield has just not worked out that connection with him. And I will have to defend Baker a little bit. You can't just, force the ball to somebody in the NFL. These defensive backs are going to be waiting on it. So if he's just staring down his receiver, obviously they're going to pick the ball. He's still got to go through his progressions. I just think that video that OBJ's dad showed was that he is open a couple of times, even when Baker goes through his progressions. So we've talked about this in the past. When you've got a great player like that, as a coach, you've got to develop many ways to get the ball in his hands, even if you've got to put him in the backfield. So I think Cleveland, if you want to keep him happy, you've got to figure out how to do that the rest of the year. But I still think this is a fractured relationship that I think the one way it's going to be solved is by being traded in the offseason.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that other teams have to weigh in on is that he makes $14 million a year. And he's got his contract extends to next year and the year after. He's a free agent in 2024. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, and I don't want to throw this all on Odell because he's been in some difficult situations too the past few years, and the guy's an unbelievable talent. But he was with the Giants. The Giants had some knucklehead coaches. They had some crazy things going on, across the board. But then he goes to Cleveland, and you've got Baker Mayfield's probably not what everybody thought he was going to be after being selected first overall, but he's a consistent kind of stable quarterback in Cleveland. You have good players around him with, like you mentioned, Jarvis Landry, a good running game with Chubb and Kareem Hunt, even though those guys are banged up right now. You have some very talented players in Cleveland. You have a pretty good offensive minded coach. And now, again, Odell is unhappy. So at what point do you say, when is it Odell's problem? Supposedly it was the Giants' problem before. Now it's supposedly Cleveland. At what point is it him? At what point does he have to look in the mirror and say, this is me that has to change. Maybe I need to do something differently. Now, again, if there's video of him, wide open down the field, yeah, Baker Mayfield's got to hit him. If Baker Mayfield's in the game at that point, he's banged up too now. But if he's open, they should be trying to get him the ball. But again, like I said, he's got to take some personal accountability for himself a little bit here too. Now, I think sometimes with just the way that he is, sometimes he's just very intense and wants to win. I think we all know that Odell wants to win. He thinks the best way to win is to get him the ball because he's that talented. I don't think he's doing it. He's locked into a contract. He's not doing it for money. He wants to win. He wants to get the football and make plays. He wants to be a winning football player. So that's first and foremost. That's a great thing. But, it just kind of seems like everywhere he goes at some point, then there's sort of like him complaining again. He's not getting the football. We saw this a little bit with Randy Moss. And Randy Moss is a Hall of Famer. And everybody loves Randy Moss. But when he was a player, there were times when he was kind of a pain in the rear end. And the Patriots ended up trading him, after his during his fourth season with the Pats, because it just became too much. So you wonder, and then he kind of regretted it afterwards. So you wonder if the same thing is going to happen with OBJ if he does get traded in the offseason.
Yeah, I quickly just yelled out or underneath my breath, I said, Terrell Owens.
Oh, yeah.
There's other wide receivers that this has happened for. I think I don't want to call wide receivers divas because, I don't really think they all are, but some of them can be, and some of them are the best wide receivers of all time. You've got a guy like Jerry Rice that probably never really complained or cried for the ball, and he's one of the best receivers of all time too. So you've got them on both sides, right? But we definitely have seen receivers from this mold that have, like you said, made it to the Hall of Fame. I do think he's got some talent like that. I do think this is easily a guy that could get 1,200 receiving yards or 8 to 10 touchdowns a year if he was used right. So I've still got to put a little bit of this on the coaching staff that you've got to look to utilize your players better and get them the ball. And I'm not saying you've got to overutilize them and make them the only guy in the game plan. We just talked about how you've got a lot of great players on that team and a lot of great weapons, but you've got to find ways to get this guy the ball. And I think that's something that they've just got to improve over the next a few weeks here. But I'll tell you what, I do think this is a topic that's going to expand over these next few weeks, and we're going to have to cover it some more. Let's move on to a great topic, a funny one. Topic number 8.